It's a great morning to be in Chinatown. Councilor Flynn, thanks for hosting us, and thanks to the Chinatown community. We're here today to celebrate the signing of an act authorizing the City of Boston to establish an investor in commercial properties transfer fee. After much discussion, debate, and study, a reasonable but very productive Home Rule Petition has been finalized for signature. The legislation will yield millions of dollars for affordable housing each and every year. I want to thank the elected officials, city officials, affordable housing advocates, and developers that are here today showing their support for this important bill. It will take all of us working very hard together to get this Home Rule Petition passed at the state. I also want to personally thank two very talented people that I know well that have brought this over the finish line. Emmy Handy, I know she's on her way, but let's give her a round of applause. She's our city's CFO, and Councilor Lydia Edwards, for their tireless work and negotiation to get this done. While we often debate the details, and which is, I should say, is a very healthy thing to do, we're all in agreement that every person, every family in Boston deserves a home that they can afford. No one believes this more than our very own Mayor Walsh. Mayor Walsh?
Thank you very much, Sheila, and I want to thank everyone for coming out today. I wanted to thank Councilor Janey and Councilor Flynn for hosting us today, and I want to do a special thank you to Councilor Edwards. This is a historic, in some ways, piece of legislation that we're going to fight for, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to thank Councilor Edwards, who brought this to the forefront about a year and a half ago, and we were able to work together. And I want to thank the City Council. All the members of the Council voted for this as well. This is very important, so thank you, Councilor Edwards, for your great advocacy. I want to thank Karen Chen and the Chinese Progressive Association and all the housing advocates that are here today. I want to thank the people of Chinatown for inspiring us and your passion. Housing is the biggest economic challenge facing the residents of Boston and people across the region. Everyone's been talking about it. It's a big issue. There's no question about it. Our population is growing. Our jobs are growing. Our federal resources are shrinking and going away. We used to rely on them for affordable housing. It's not the money, quite honestly, isn't there anymore, and the will in Washington is not to put money into affordable housing for poor people, and we need to continue to push and move forward. Over the last few years, we've grown to use our own resources to do things in Boston and do things that we've never done in the city of Boston. Several years ago, the voters of Boston passed the Community Preservation Act. We created the Office of Housing Stability to fight displacement. We put 3 million square feet of city land into affordable housing. We've created a new program for first-time homeowners. We've spent $65 million to the Boston Housing Authority for public housing in East Boston, Charlestown, and South Boston. That's money out of the city's coffers. I want to thank Kate Bennett from the Boston Housing Authority who's here today. We're pushing the state and the legislature for stronger tenant protections. In all, we've created over 31,000 units, God bless you, 31,000 units of new homes in the last 5 years. And 20% of those are subsidized affordable housing units. Boston, Massachusetts is number one for a major city in the United States in building and creating subsidized housing. We did this work by working together, but we have more work to do. We're not going to settle there. We have to do everything we can to make sure that to be a city that low-income, working-class, and middle-class people can afford to live in. This Home Rule Petition is a significant step forward. It's a modest fee, and I'd call it a modest fee, on high-end transactions that would help a lot of people. It would allow us to help more people than that we currently have tools for, and develop some new solutions for seniors, for families, for people experiencing homelessness, for people who want to stay in the neighborhood that they helped build. And we're going to protect the average homeowner. We need to work together to get this passed at the State House. And one thing that I was asked a question by the press the other day, about what the impacts in the legislature that don't want to raise taxes are. This isn't about the legislature raising taxes. They're not raising taxes. They're allowing us the opportunity to increase the fee. This isn't a tax vote for the legislature. This has nothing to do with legislators outside of Boston. This is allowing Boston the opportunity to increase the tax to 2% on the sale of property so we can help the most vulnerable. Many of those people that we're helping didn't grow up and don't live in the city of Boston. But we're one of the only cities in the Northeast creating affordable housing. So I'm asking the legislature to fast-track this proposal and get this proposal onto the governor's desk. Because at the end of the day, the 200 legislators didn't take a tax vote. They took a home rule petition vote to allow the city of Boston to do what we want. The governor did not sign a bill into law. The governor is not signing a tax increase. He's signing a piece of legislation that allows the city of Boston to do what we want to do to move forward. So I'm asking for their help. I'm going to go up tomorrow to the State House and talk about IDP and linkage fees. I know many of you in this room are going to be with me. We've been spending a lot of time at the State House lately. I'd prefer not have to do all this. And the reason why I say that, if we had the money and the revenue that was there, we wouldn't have to do this. But because of all the concern out there, all the activists on housing and linkage, all of that, I thank you for your work. Because we need to continue to push forward. We need to continue to make the investments in housing. We need to continue to make the investments, not necessarily in housing, we need to continue to make the investments in people. That's what we're doing here. We're making investments in people, in their future, because we have a lot of work to do. When I talk about $65 million into Boston Housing Authority, that is not even a millifraction of what we need to put into public housing. So as the mayor of the city of Boston and as my colleagues in the city council, I know that we're uniform in this. It's important for us that we continue to represent the people of our city and the people that are most vulnerable. We are all motivated, inspired by the people of this neighborhood and every neighborhood in Boston. That's who we work for. That's who we build housing for. And that's what this ordinance and this revenue will help us do. I want to thank all of you for being here today. I look forward to seeing you at the State House really soon, advocating on behalf. And I'm going to turn this microphone back over to Sheila Dillon.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor mentioned, the city council's worked really hard on this home rule petition, and we so appreciate their willingness to listen to all sides and shape this bill into something that will produce much-needed affordable housing and, I believe, has a pretty decent chance of passing. Leading this effort has been our City Council, Lydia Edwards, Chair of the Housing Community Development Committee and City Councilor for District 1. Lydia.
First, I want to say thank you so much to Sheila Dillon. You were my first boss in housing when I came over. So it has been through, again, I've said many times to my former colleagues at DND, at the Office of Housing Stability, the mentorship, their friendship, their lessons taught to me on how to not only push a policy, but the narrative around it. So I want to say thank you to the folks I work with at the City of Boston. And I think they deserve a round of applause. They don't get enough credit. They absolutely do. I want to also say thank you to my colleagues, Councilor Flynn and Councilor Janey. Janey is one of the co-sponsor of this, but because we dubbed ourselves the freshmen, because we came in together and we were extremely close, and we've worked very hard, particularly on housing. When I came out to Roxbury and we had that historic hearing on gentrification, when we talked about short-term rentals, Councilor Flynn. So I want to say that they have been my right and left-hand man and woman in this fight on the City Council. So I wanted to give a hand to Councilor Flynn and Councilor Janey. To the mayor, thank you so much. I think one of the best, yes, to the mayor, to the mayor, I want to say thank you so much because, again, I've said this before, I said it in Charlestown, it's not when we agree, it's when we get things done that we shine the brightest. And that oftentimes is through the back and forth, or the conversations, and being direct with each other. And I think we've actually produced some of the best legislation on housing with the IDP and with this today. So thank you so much. To the advocates in the room, I have to say thank you, because look what we got done. Amen. Look what we got done. On January 16th, we introduced a draft for this transfer fee. It's literally 12 months to the day that we are signing it into law. 12 months, that is bold action, and that is because of everyone in this room, people who made the phone calls, people who were at the hearing. It's because of all of you, so give yourselves a hand for everything that you've done. I'm pleased to join everyone here in Chinatown, a community that has felt the full weight of gentrification and this housing crisis. It's important that we're here today to lift up the struggle that is felt just not only in Chinatown, but also in East Boston and Roxbury and many communities throughout Boston. We're here to say a positive thing. We're here to say that we are committed to housing people in Boston. That even though we no longer have a federal partner in this, Boston is going to continue to be bold and step up in many different ways. I want to acknowledge the work done already by BHA and the City of Boston for bonding for public housing. We're talking about millions of dollars that we're committed to make sure that we have the sanitary, clean, and affordable, deeply affordable units in Charlestown for generations to come. But it's because of that bold action that we need to look at all resources, and we need all stakeholders, including developers, at the table to help come up with solutions and provide resources. And that's what this is doing. It is setting a different table. It is not telling people what we don't want. We're actually saying we want to build. We want to build. We want to grow as a city, and we want to make sure that everybody in the city can grow with the developers, can grow with people who are building homes. We're asking for that kind of growth. We're hoping that we see homes being developed and built and that people can become homeowners. But we need the resources for that. This transfer fee provides vital resources and, again, is a tool in the toolbox. We don't have a silver bullet to this crisis because it wasn't a silver issue or one issue that got us here. We can go through all the redlining, the gentrification, and the multiple issues that got us in this situation. So it's our job as policymakers to come up with a whole set of tools in the toolbox to make sure that we make Boston a livable city for all. We believe in preserving cultural corridors like Chinatown and making sure that people can become homeowners, that they can come here for school or come here for a job like I did, and one day imagine yourselves either as a politician, as a mother, having children here, going to great schools. That's what we believe in Boston. That's Boston. So when we look at multi-million transfers happening on a regular basis, when we see the amount of income in this bolstering economy happening, and then also hear on the phone how people can't afford rent, how they don't know how they're going to stay here, that's a dichotomy that we can't live with as the city of Boston. We won't live with as the city of Boston. If there is going to be a city that figures this out, how to have incredible economic growth, but also stem the bad impacts of gentrification, and to make sure that we have a growing middle class, it's going to be this city here. It's going to be through these policies and this toolbox that is unique to no other city that we're going to come up with and make sure that we become one of the best examples historically for how to grow equitably. I am so proud of the partnership that I have, not only with my colleagues, but there have been, whether, this room may not reflect it, but there are developers, there are people who are in the room who want this to happen. They understand they have a role to play. And they also felt that it was a balanced role. As you know, we had a higher percentage and we had a different floor, but today we had a compromise bill that really only impacts transfers over $2 million. And we're talking about up to 2%. And again, as the mayor said, we're asking for permission for Boston to be as bold as it can be. That's all we're asking for today with this Home Rule Petition. With this Home Rule Petition, we'll join 38 other states that have versions of transfer fees that are generating monies for their communities. We're also going to join several communities already in the state of Massachusetts that have Home Rule Petitions pending at the State House. We need to join them because if we don't come up with a transfer fee to protect our housing stock, but every city around us is, we're even more vulnerable. Boston is about bold things. Boston is about equity. And I look at this room and I see the greatness in Boston, and I know that we have an incredible future. I want to also say thank you so much to the folks in public housing and in my district, those in Charlestown, the Charlestown Resident Alliance. What they do by organizing, by showing up, by being seen, is remind us about the families who will be impacted, and remind us about the deep vulnerabilities that we have and who we will lose if we don't get this right. Many of my constituents who now live in those $1 million triple-deckers in Charlestown grew up in those in the bricks or in Bunker Hill public housing. They're an example not only of the American dream, but the Boston dream as well, that you can move across the street and have a completely different future. So we're going to invest in that. We will get this done. I think we have more than a high chance of getting it done, Sheila. I think we can move this in the State House, and we will get this done, and we need everyone in this room to come with us. So thank you so much. It has been an honor to serve in this role, and we will continue to keep fighting at this.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Those certainly were inspiring words, and I think we're all ready to get to work on this. Boston, we're very fortunate to have many talented city councilors. Councilor Ed Flynn was mentioned, and I'm glad to see him here. Councilor Kim Janey, also terrific on housing and co-sponsor for this very important piece of legislation. She's co-chair of the Housing and Community Development Committee and a dedicated advocate for District 7 and beyond, and beyond, and beyond. Councilor Janey.
Good morning, everyone. I'll be really brief. I just want to do some thank yous. So first, to my sister in service and my partner in crime and my good friend and advocate, Lydia Edwards, thank you so much for your leadership, not only on this issue. Yes, please give it up for Lydia Edwards. Not only on this particular transfer fee, but for your leadership on housing issues and so many other issues impacting our city. I'm grateful for your partnership. I do want to shout out my good friend Ed Flynn. As Councilor Edwards has already mentioned, we are kind of the three amigos. We came in together, we've bonded, we've been doing good work in our first term, and I look forward to continuing that work, not only with the two of them, but with the newcomers coming into this council. I want to shout out our mayor. Mayor, thank you so much for your leadership and your partnership in this. We are here today because it does take all of us working together, including the advocates in the room. We cannot do any of this without you. So thank you again. I just want to quickly share just a couple of stories and why this is important. I ran for Boston City Council 2 years ago simply because people in my community were being left out of the economic prosperity in our city and literally being pushed out of our community. I have deep roots in Roxbury, as many folks know, but also strong ties to the South End community. My great-grandmother owned a brownstone in the South End, and my family was gentrified out of the South End. And we see the same thing happening in other parts of our city, certainly in Chinatown, and I'm really grateful for folks hosting us here, because you certainly understand exactly what our city is facing in terms of our housing crisis. But certainly in Roxbury. We see this every day in Roxbury. A year ago, we had a gentrification hearing. Just looking at gentrification in Roxbury, 350 people came out to share their stories around displacement. And we all knew, leaving that hearing, that we had to come up with solutions. And we were able to do that working with the advocates in the room. And this is just one additional tool for our toolbox, just one additional tool. 5 weeks ago, I was in my district celebrating a ribbon cutting, which was amazing. 76 new units. Mayor, you were there, you remember. One of the things that we learned was that there were 4,000 applicants for those 76 units. 4,000 applicants for just 76 units. We've got a lot of work to do, and this helps us. This helps us. This is groundbreaking because we are talking about an up to 2% fee for properties over $2 million that will help us generate close to $200 million each and every year of new revenue that we will invest in affordable housing in this city. That is what this legislation does for us today. Yes, we can give it up for that. So I just want to thank everyone for coming out. We have to have a regional approach. One of the things that came out crystal clear in our last working session, and I certainly want to thank not just you, Mayor, but your team for working with us in our working session, it became crystal clear that there is this movement underway and that there are cities and towns all around Boston who are doing this work. And if we didn't step up, Boston was going to be the sandbox for all of the bad players who want to come and speculate in our housing market. And we couldn't do that. So I'm so grateful that we were able to come to the table, put forth a bold, progressive solution to our housing crisis. It's just one piece. We've got more work to do, that we were able to come together and negotiate and reach agreement. And so that 2% fee, up to 2% fee, again, on properties over $2 million, will generate close to $200 million new revenue. And that's because of everyone in this room. We've got more work to do in terms of what we need to happen in our city, but we certainly have more work to do in terms of making sure that this gets passed through the legislature. So I just want to encourage everyone in your advocacy that we have to continue in our fight to make sure that Boston remains a city for all of us. This is a great world-class city. I grew up here, I was born here, I love my city, and I want to make sure that we can all live and thrive in this wonderful city. So thank you for the work that you guys do every single day. Thank you for supporting, advocating, and leading on these important issues so that we can truly have a city that is for all of us. So thank you so much. And thank you, Sheila, for your amazing work.
When all of the details had been worked out and the negotiations were complete, we said we'd need to have a signing. And I think it's always good to come together and celebrate because, you know, you need to celebrate too. So we mentioned this to the mayor, and the mayor said, I want to be in Chinatown and I want everyone invited. So it's really good to be here. And given that, it's very fitting that our next two speakers are two very strong women from Chinatown, and two that we love and adore. First is Karen Chen, the Executive Director of CPA, Chinese Progressive Association. Karen works day and night, and I can attest to the night, to increase the supply of affordable housing, but also to really work on displacements with both the residents and businesses that are here. So we admire her commitment and would like her to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Sheila. Sheila is one of the hardest working people in City Hall. I can't agree more with the mayor that this bill is not about revenue. It's about housing as a human right. And I want to thank the mayor, you know, for moving the needle around making sure there's homes for all. Councilor Edwards to making sure that speculation is regulated. Councilor Janey making sure that racial equity is part of everything that we're talking about. Councilor Flynn making sure that immigrants and the vulnerable have their share, their fair share in our economy. And thank you so much for the rest of the City Council to support this important bill, because we want to make sure that Boston's heart and soul stays in Boston, just like we want to make sure that Chinatown stays Chinatown for the years to come. Last summer, Mayor Walsh, Chief Dillon, Councilor Flynn took a tour of Chinatown with the residents. Of course, we dumped them with all the problems that we have. But we also talked about the important role that Chinatown plays for the Chinese immigrant families over the years, not just for Boston, for the entire state, entire region. And we also talked about the importance of preserving affordable housing, increasing the number of affordable housing, making sure that the people who need Chinatown the most can stay. Not because it's a trendy, you know, area now, but because people actually live here out of necessity. And we also know that in order for Chinatown to stay Chinatown, We need to have homes for all of Boston, all Bostonians, and that there is truly affordable housing for those in need of housing the most. And we need to increase funding for affordable housing. New constructions and existing. There's a lot of expiring use units also throughout Boston that we need to preserve. So I'm so pleased that the mayor is here today in Chinatown to sign this Home Rule Petition to make sure that the most vulnerable are protected. And that there are policy to make sure that all of us rise together, and that housing is a human right. And this is what makes Boston a world-class city. This is what a world-class city is about. We take care of everyone. On behalf of CPA, I want to thank the mayor and the city council for stepping up. But also want to call on the state legislature to step up to address the housing crisis. I'm going to take a few minutes to say this in Chinese. 咁我哋好多謝，今日好多謝市長啦，同埋市議員啦，市議員費蓮、市議員 Edwards、市議員 Janie， 同埋我哋嘅房屋總管 Sheila Dillon。今日嚟咧，即係話簽呢個重要嘅法案。我哋今日嚟簽呢個法案咧，唔係有關稅務，呢個係有關點樣我哋咧確保房屋係人權，每個人都有自己嘅家。咁舊年咧夏天嘅時候，市長啦、市議員啦同埋房屋總管都有嚟同啲居民一齊嚟講唐人街嘅問題。咁我哋唔單止同佢哋講，即係我哋而家有啲咩嘅房屋嘅問題，咁亦都同佢講咧，就係話唐人街整個社區整個州重要嘅角色。點解我哋要保護可負擔性房屋？如果唐人街咧冇工人嘅階級嘅話咧，唐人街唔會再係唐人街。咁所以，但係我哋要做到呢樣嘢嘅話咧，我哋一定咧要增加可負擔性房屋嘅資金。咁所以今日咧市長嚟今日簽呢個草案咧，對於我嚟講係非常之有意義，因為咧即係話咧波士頓佢哋會保護好似唐人街咁嘅社區令到我哋可以繼續喺呢度住特別係最需要唐人街嘅居民。咁我哋好多時話點樣算叫做世界一流嘅城市咧？咁我哋會成日諗話或者係好啲嘢好靚咧，或者係好咩啊？咁我覺得咧，波士頓係一個一流嘅市，係因為我哋照顧脆弱嘅人群。咁所以咧，我代表前進會咧同埋社區咧，好多謝市長同埋市會支持呢個重要嘅法案。咁亦都咧係希望咧州政府要通過州政府通過咧先至成為法律。咁希望我哋州政府嘅議員咧佢哋咧應該咧亦都係加緊通過一啲法案咧，係解決我哋房屋嘅危機㗎。So we all know that stable housing means healthy lives and stable communities. So let's get it done, Massachusetts.
Thank you, Karen. And finally, before the mayor and all of us sign the Home Rule Petition, I'd like to ask Angie Liu to say a few words. Angie's the very talented executive director of the Asian CDC and is responsible for creating much of the housing here in Chinatown that is affordable to its residents. Angie.
Thank you, everyone. I am the Executive Director of Asian Community Development Corporation. I want to welcome you to the Powell Arts Center at 1 Greenway. This building that you are sitting in is one of the many affordable housing developments that we have developed over the last 3 decades in Chinatown. Thank you. So a transfer fee of up to 2% on real estate transactions greater than $2 million could raise hundreds of millions a year for affordable housing production in the city. And this could create thousands more affordable homes in Boston every year. So this development that we're sitting in this building and also the building across the park, that's a total of 146 affordable homes with rentals and condo units for families, working families in the city of Boston. And as Councilor Janey talked about earlier before, thousands of families apply whenever affordable housing opportunities open up in the city. So when this building, 95 affordable homes, opened up a couple years ago, we also got 4,400 applications. 4,400 applications, and which means we were only able to accept 3%. 3% of the people who applied. I like to say that is harder to get into than Harvard, okay? We're talking about application success rates. And that means there were still 4,256 families who didn't get in and were still on the wait list. They're still waiting for affordable housing. And we just can't add new housing fast enough. So we need more ways to raise funding sources for affordable housing so that working families in gentrifying neighborhoods like Chinatown have a chance of staying in their own community. The transfer fee would capitalize on the sale of commercial properties and luxury housing to lift all boats by creating more resources for affordable housing. So we know that housing is the #1 issue facing Boston, and it is actually an existential threat to immigrant neighborhoods like Chinatown. So this is really about a choice of what kind of a city do we want to be. And we have a choice. And so with the passing of this bill, we are making the right choice about making this an equitable city for everybody. So lastly, I just want to thank the leadership of Mayor Walsh, Councilors Edwards and Janey, and the rest of the councilors such as Councilor Flynn, who voted to pass this bill. It's so great to be part of a city where the city leaders are moving in the right direction with this. We're all working together towards making this a great city for everybody. And so lastly, I just want to say, next stop, onto the State House.
All right, the time has come. Mayor, yeah, oh, please come on up.
Before we start, I just want to say one thing, because a lot was said. When we talk about these 4,400 applications for this building, and we talk about 4,000 applications for the building the other day in Roxbury, this is a statewide problem. Okay? If you look at the tools Boston has put on the table, we probably, with all the tools we have on the table, could almost handle our residents and take care of all the housing needs in Boston between the Community Preservation Act, between the investments from our general fund that the councilors have supported over the last several years, with this bill transfer fee today. But because there is no statewide housing policy that protects the poor, that increases voucher systems and give higher rates for vouchers, that doesn't have a real consistent plan across the board in investments, we're going to continue to see these numbers in Boston go up, because everyone is flocking to our city, because we are the only city, or one of the only cities, really in New England, and certainly in Massachusetts, that is addressing this need. So I just ask all of our advocates, we're going to join you at the State House. When you advocate on behalf of our legislation, Councilor Edwards has legislation at the State House. We have legislation. It's all the same stuff for the most part, because we all support all of it. We're going to be standing with you side by side in the halls of the State House and talking to the governor about the need for passing this legislation. Because if other cities and towns do not address this crisis, this is not going to get better. This transfer tax legislation won't even be able to be helpful to what we need to what we need for investments in housing. So I just wanted to pass that along today, and I want to again thank you for being here today. Now we'll sign this. Law into order. Yeah, well, listen.
If housing leaders want to come up, feel free.
Do you want to move that podium? Do you want to get rid of the podium?
Oh, it's takedown.
It's I don't think we can.
All right. All right, ready? Here we go. It's done now.